Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Mömus, a exercise in beautification of our project E39. That was rather loud. Sorry about that if you're weak of stomach. As you may remember from our first episode, I didn't wash those wheels and I hinted towards a replacement. And yes sir, a Style 238 BMW 19-inch from the previous generation 5 Series and 5 Series GT and 7 Series. There you go. So they still have the winter tires on, and that's great because as you can see it's wet here in our season, here in our climate, and in the night and in the evening actually still it gets very cold, even down to minus temperatures. So that's why I'm still running the winter wheels. They're a bit meaty and a bit big for this particular motor vehicle. Once it gets to summer we'll put the proper diameter tires on. I actually put my jack and tools on the other side, so that was a bit stupid, but let's go ahead and move over there. You're going to need the obvious tools like your ratchet and your 17mm or 19mm, depending on which car you have, nut, a jack and axle stands.
The battle of wizards and warriors continues with iron swords. The evil wizard Malkill will take the shape of the earth, wind, water and fire.
You actually need several jacks for this job, I forgot to say. If you're only doing your wheels, you're only going to need one jack to jack up the car. Put an axle stand under the axle and you take off your wheel and you put your new wheel on. But for this particular job we're also going to change the spring, and to support the hub assembly when the spring is out, and to jack the new one in all the way to the top mount, we're gonna have to use another jack right under there, and then the one obviously supporting the car, and then some axle stands all over the place to keep the car solid. So let's go ahead and jack up the car. So. Put your wheel bolt somewhere safe. Voila! Right in there. We're gonna clean this off, make it look pretty. Just with some soapy water again. So we're gonna let this soak, and then we'll come in with our brush, give it a good brush up, and then we'll come in with some wax spray, treat it with the wax so that the next time you clean it, it will be a lot easier, and contaminants don't have such a fighting chance to produce any harm. Give special attention to the plastic arch liner, as this will be the main point of improvement we want to reach when you have your new wheels on, and it will all look very shiny. Oh yeah, another point is, as you can see, the bumpers are still not painted, because when you take your suspension and certainly your wheels in and out, you don't want to bang your newly painted bumpers, so that will be next episode. Then you go in with your chamois, use one that you don't use on the auto paint. And then you take your preferably all natural wax spray, wax it all in, and then you give that a moment, and then you clean it up, and then we're ready to go. On to the spring replacement. Now this can be a very easy job or a very complicated job. If like this you've got a McPherson strut with a multi-link suspension setup, then I wish you good luck. That's unfortunately what we have here, so let's go in and attack the multi-link. We need a selection of spanners and ratchets for this. So the best rule or a guideline for yourself if you're unsure about what way to loosen the bolt, there's an English saying that goes righty tighty, lefty loosey. So right is tight, left is loose. Or if you're like really unsure and the bolt is in some complicated place upside down and tucked away, you can also do the right hand rule, and it goes: take your right hand, your thumb is the direction that you want the bolt to go, and then you move your hand to close your wrist, so to say. So you move your hand towards your arm, and then that's always the direction that you want the bolt to go. So in this particular case, for the drop link, I want to loosen the bolt and I want to move it in that direction, so that's out of the suspension setup, and move your hand towards your wrist, and that would be this movement, and it comes loose beautifully. And so sometimes these things go together in a certain way. For example, I just took the bolt out from the drop link that mounts the drop link, anti-roll bar drop link to the suspension strut. And if I would have taken the strut loose first and then the drop link, this one would have been, first of all, very tight, and then when it came loose, the whole thing would have jumped out and caught my hand. And that's not what you want. Once you get to the point where you're going to loosen the strut from the other links in the suspension from your multi-link system, you can take your jack at this point and crank up the whole hub assembly, and that puts some pressure on the strut and takes the pressure off of the bolt, so these come out easily and your whole system will not come dropping down. I am going to take the nuts off here, off the top of the strut, so that when we lower the jack down at the bottom of the hub assembly, this whole strut should come out, and then we can wiggle it out of the car. That's the idea, at least. And we are now loose. Okay, so I'm gonna put some tape on my beautiful arches, as they are unharmed still. And when you pull the spring out, you might just catch the top of the strut on your arch, and ruin your paintwork. So I'm gonna put some of the tape on here, and then I'll go get some protection stuff to put on the top of the strut. Maybe some paper. Oh, that's heavy. Alright, so we're here now. This is most certainly gonna hit. Or not. Come on. Oh yeah, what I forgot to say is you should make a mark. Can you see the mark? On your strut and on your hub assembly, to align it later, and that's going to help you a little bit with the alignment of your suspension. My suggestion is to still get a alignment afterwards, because you probably move some stuff around, and also with the lower spring, the geometry of it is going to change. So I'm going to take loose the top mount. I'm going to consult the handbook, and we'll put the new spring on, and then we'll report back here and put the new strut in. You should also use the handbook to do this, because this spring is under a load that is now sandwiched in between the strut and the top mount, and when you take this off the incorrect way, the assembly might explode. So we're going to do this now carefully according to the handbook, and then we'll put this new spring on and put it back in. Before I show you the end result on the other side, we're back on the right side of the car. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the pinch bolt. That's this one. And this one gets incredibly stuck in there. So you can get the nut off, but the bolt itself just stays there. The way I did it was to get my impact gun. I was at the end of my power, at the end of my own strength, and I got my impact gun, got it to go back in, and that got the lubricant that I used, got it all on the bolt and on the inside of the bolt hole. And after that, with some hammering, it came out finally. But I let it soak as well for 2 days, so the whole weekend. So that's why the weather changed now, and that's why I'm in one of my old business shirts. Let's now put that aside and let's lower down the strut on this side, and we'll put the new spring on, and then we can finally show you how to put it all back together and show you the end result. And then twist and shout, and hey presto! Don't forget to support it when you've got the strut out, so it doesn't keep on stretching everything inside. These are the new springs. And as you can see, there's quite a high difference between them, between the two. I'll put them towards each other that you can see very precisely. There we go. Now that doesn't mean everything, because it could happen that your new springs are stiffer, and once you install those, they will basically keep the same shape, and your old springs over all the years of use have become soggy, and they actually compress almost down to the same as your new springs. So that's something to keep in mind. Secondly, you can see that the width of the coils is different between the two, and why that is because there's actually less spring here, as you can see. And so to compensate for the loss in springiness, so the stiffness of the spring, they have to fabricate the coils from a thicker material so that it has the same spring load with a shorter amount of spring. The official numbers here are that it will lower this car 30 millimeters, and they are especially made for the 5 Series E39 with the sports pack. So the sports pack is already 20 millimeter lower than a standard 5 Series, so this should be in the end 50 mil lower than a standard E39 5 Series. So we got the new spring on the strut and it's ready to go in. I just wanted to point out that you have to take note of lining the spring up correctly with the bottom and the top mount. So let's take off this and let's once again take something to protect your wheel arches. Also, make sure your marks will line up with the marks that you made on the hub. Mine is on the other side. I have to twist it in and up. There we go. Up. There we go. That seems to be as far as it likes to go. Take your bolts, spin those back on, and bam. So, as many of you will know, the E39 hub has a different center bore than, or the wheels have therefore a different center bore than many other BMWs. I think they only use this size 74 millimeters on a later X5, not even the one they introduced together with this one. So finding wheels for this can be a challenge, and as you saw, we've got some normal 5 Series and 7 Series wheels from later generations. So we're gonna need some type of adapter for that, like I have in here. There we go. Boom! So as you see, it's not only an adapter but it's also a spacer of 15 millimeter. That's because making just an adapter to sit in there will be too brittle. So you need the whole thing to sit on there. There we go. Before we proceed, I'm going to clean this up and liberally put some copper grease on that, because what I hate the most in the world is bolts getting stuck. And then just cuff that off, any corrosion that's already there from not being greased or any dirt. Then you take your favorite brand of copper grease and you just start applying it on here fairly equally. The reason to take copper grease and not just any grease is, as you can see already from the color, there is copper in the grease, and that makes it a fairly solid grease, and it's not gonna become all runny under high heat. So before we continue, there are some things to prepare. First of all, you need to take away your axle stand, but secondly, make some room, you know, take away your tools and your equipment and the parts that you're no longer using, so that when the car comes down on the new suspension and the new wheels, you can stand back and just enjoy and marvel. So let's do that, and then I'll put her down and then we'll see what's what. Let's go ahead and take the jack off of the hub. And it's time to get the wheel aligned. And then you align your hubski. And then comes the, oh yeah, this one, prepare. Remember what I said? Don't want this to be on there when the arch comes down. Don't be fooled by the sun. In the nighttime here it's still freezing, so we're still putting the winter wheels just for as a safety precaution for now, until it's totally summertime. Oh, these are so heavy, man. So if you're using a spacer or an adapter plate that is like mine, that doesn't bolt into the hub by itself, there are two things to note. First of all, get it all the way flat onto the hub surface, the adapter plate. Secondly, when you put the new wheels on, you have to align the holes for the bolts with the adapter with the hub that's behind. And thirdly, you're going to need a set of longer than original wheel bolts that go through the adapter into the hub, like factory spec. Also, what's important is that you, more than with just original wheels, factory bolts and a normal hub assembly, is that you really go the star pattern, or the cross pattern as it's known, and you always very equally tighten all the bolts, and that makes sure that the hub and the adapter or spacer and your wheel are correctly aligned, and that it's all flat against each other's surface. Voila. Really also very carefully start it by hand, not with the ratchet. Start tightening it. You can see even the wheel being pulled correctly onto the spacer and onto the hub. Oh man, how good is it? So don't forget, even though this looks so amazing, to take your torque wrench and dial your torque in on your torque wrench and torque the bolt down. Still go for the star pattern. There we go. So we're done with the front. I think it looks very nice. The back is basically the same process. So unless anything very peculiar is going to show up there, I'm going to go ahead and finish the back as well. And then we'll show you around the final results. Well, in fact, quite a lot of interior had to come out, including the seat belts, to finally reveal the top mount. Even part of the gas tank had to come out to get the struts out. Man, look how nicely it's tucking. So we've got the rear springs mounted and the new wheels mounted on the adapter plates, and the thing looks incredible. Just have to do an alignment because of the possibly changed suspension geometry with the lowered springs. The summer tires are on the way, and so the tuck will be a little bit less. In fact, the difference will be 8 centimeters. So the car will come down 8 centimeters and there should be a little bit less tuck. There's only one thing left now, and that is the bumpers.